So my question is about thought and effort in changing thought, like all of that. I've been listening to you for a little while, and I'm also a coach, so I kind of work with others, and so a lot of what I've learned from you has been so useful. But I don't know if I hear clearly, because I hear you sometimes talk about two things.
Yes.
Right? Which is, and it's the thing you say about the deliberate, art of deliberate, and then the allowing.
It's a fine line, isn't it? Because when you try hard, you're focused on a problem that you're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
So the problem is what's most active in your vibration. When you chill out, now you're allowing the solution to come. So just ask yourself, maybe the easy analogy or association would be, when you feel yourself trying, just stop and say, is that cork floating? Or is my effort, have I got hold of the cork and I'm drowning it?
Got it. And I think what I'm seeing is that, you know, we create our own reality, and we create our reality by the thoughts we give attention to. So that the only thing we...
And it's the steadiness of it too. A fleeting thought doesn't have much creation power.
Got it.
But those beliefs, which are just thoughts that you continue to think, that's broadcasting that you continue to broadcast.
So at any moment, there is nothing going on out there. I say, you know, oh, I got angry because the kids did this, or I got worried because this happened with a client. But there is nothing going on out there.
Well,
it is my thought to it that gives me this experience.
Here's the thing. You might ask yourself, is my intention to broadcast because of my alignment, or to broadcast in response to things? Am I an actionary or a reactionary? Am I reacting? Because even if it's positive things that you're reacting to, you're still training reaction out of yourself.
On the outside, yeah.
So if good things are happening, you react in a positive way. If bad things are happening, you react in a negative way. And in either case, you're not really controlling your own ship.
But the ship we're controlling this is an inside-out reality. It appears.
Let's say that in the way we've been saying it today. It's a source energy to physical, in other words, source energy out. The source within me, inside out.
So inside out, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean me, but yes, the source that is me in an expression.
Yes.
Right? And source only expresses. Right? So that's what infinite.
Source only expresses love and knowing
and that
upliftment.
vibration.
Yes. Yes.
And the only thing I could possibly do is either allow or interfere with that.
Yeah.
So I am either allowing the source that is me to express, or I interfere. And the way I interfere is I get a thought.
Yeah.
Like, I've never done this before. This is bigger than...
These are perfect words, and let's tie it together with a little more emphasis. Let's say that source that I am allowing to flow through me now is flowing through me the details of what I've been telling source I wanted from my experience. So it all ties together. I live life. I garner from this life experience what I prefer. Source integrates it with all that source knows about me and now expresses the fullness of that through me. And to the degree that I allow it, I feel wonderful and worthy. And to the degree that I don't, I feel less wonderful and less worthy. You got that?
Cool. So when I get a thought, so then I doubt that I could do this, or this is bigger than I've done, or whatever.
So let's use a different word because it'll clarify something. Instead of saying when I get a thought, let's say when I receive a thought.
Receive a thought.
So I've received a thought. So now the logical question is, what receptive mode was I in from which I received the thought? Was I in the receptive mode of source, inside out, or was I in the receptive mode of vulnerability? It's because a lot of times you get what you think is inspiration because it comes in a strong way because it's momentum and it occurs to you. But unless you've really practiced being in alignment, sometimes you can't tell if you're getting it from broader perspective or from...
So I get that, and this is something that shifted for me in the way I guide my clients and myself, because I used to say and would talk about, well, it's like change that thought. Like when you catch that it's a doubt or a fear or a worry or an anxiety, okay, well then change that thought. And that's not possible.
Well, it is if you catch it early
Okay.
enough. That's the rumble strip analogy that we're offering. Sometimes you can if you catch it early enough.
So can I ask technically,
Yes?
is it that you change that thought or that you just let go of it and Source will bring you a new one?
It's almost the same thing, maybe even exactly the same thing, because changing a thought means letting go of one and taking hold of another.
And give attention to another.
And if there's not a lot of momentum going, it's easier to do.
I got that. But let go and give attention.
We gave the analogy last week of the Panama Canal, 84-foot difference in one body of water to the next. And so the ship doesn't just jump the 84 feet. Instead, it goes into a lock and the water rises. And when the water in this lock is equal to the water in the next, then the gates open and the ship passes through. And then the water rises, and when the water is again and again and again, it's sort of the same thing. If you allow your vibration to rise incrementally.
I think what I'm seeing is if you use more thinking to try to get out of the thinking that you are in, you actually weigh that down. The cork float analogy.
So we're sort of caught in a little quagmire here, and let's clear this up. So these things are true. Follow our logic here. You're going to like this. Because we've been following yours, and it's good. Your logic is good. Which comes first, the thought or the emotion?
The thought, which I feel. The thought first, and then I feel it.
So I focus, which is what thinking is. I focus and activate within myself the subject of my attention. And then there is a vibrational relationship between what I've got active and the activity that my inner being has active on the same subject. So there is a relationship between the two. And the way I feel talks about the harmony or discord between what I got going on vibrationally and what my inner being's got going on vibrationally.
Can I call that? Can I say when I say that I feel my thinking?
You can, but stay with us just for a little bit here, and let's take this to a new place of understanding. So it is always accurate to say that I think and then I have a feeling response to my thought. It's also accurate to say that it is not likely that I'm just going to stop thinking a thought. That would be like saying jump over the building. You're just not going to jump over the building. You might find a way to get yourself over the building, but you're not going to just jump over the building. So now we're talking about incremental thoughts. We're talking about momentum of thoughts. Now just rest with that for just a moment and answer this question. Is your inner being in any moment in time thinking a thought? Yes.
Yeah.
Answer this question. Is your inner being in any moment in time thinking a thought about what's on your mind?
Yeah.
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 So
Instant.
that thought's already being thought. So there's a part of you, a big part of you, already thinking.
Okay.
Ooh, we have not had this conversation before. You're starting to feel it already, aren't you? So your inner being is already thinking a thought. If you quiet your mind and allow your vibration to raise, you'll be thinking the same thought that your inner being is thinking.
Got it.
And that's worthiness. That's alignment.
Yeah.
Ooh, there were a lot of ha-has that just happened. And a lot of goosebumps on your body. So let's say it again. Your inner being is always interested and actively involved in whatever you're involved in, and always thinking a thought, and it's always pure positive energy, and it's always powerful, and it's always resourceful in its energy. It's the energy that creates worlds. And you're having some relationship with that thought that your inner being is thinking. Now, your inner being is not demanding you to jump over the house or raise your vibration that 84 feet without going through the locks. Your inner being knows that there's resistance on your path that makes it maybe not likely for you to see this as your inner being sees it right now, this red hot minute. But your inner being will keep calling you through the path of least resistance, through the path of the resistance that you've thrown on the trail in order to get you there. In other words, your inner being doesn't ask you to think that thought and understand that right now, but your inner being is always calling you toward what you've created in your own vortex and all that you've become. Don't you just love this? So if you care about the way you feel and you acknowledge that your inner being is thinking a thought, and for just a little bit you're listening rather than talking, You're listening for the thought that your inner being thinks about it, rather than explaining why you can't think that thought or explaining why you're where you are. If you just chill and talk less. Esther is sometimes annoyed at the cell phones because they can't talk and listen at the same time. And so she's talking all over the top of her daughter, and her daughter's talking all over the top of her. In other words, they can't tell. Neither one of them ever want to stop talking. And so, but you are either broadcasting or you are receiving. You're not doing both at the same time. And so if you want to hear what your inner being is thinking, or let's say it better, if you want to be in on that high-minded thought that your inner being is thinking, then you got to stop spewing the lower-minded thought that you are spewing, which is the whole point of meditation, or the whole point of doing your best to chill. But to your point, you can't just stop thinking a thought. So you want to think the thoughts that let you go up the locks in the Panama Canal. Just try to find a thought that feels a little better, and a thought that feels a little better, and a thought that feels a little better, and a thought that feels a little better. And before you know it, you're in range, and now you're receiving the thought that your inner being is thinking about this.
Great. And the stop talking so you can listen is also in the thinking.
Or, good words, stop broadcasting so you can receive. Stop broadcasting for just a minute and see what you can pick up from the ethers.
Yeah. And then that activity, like, well, that was a negative thought, so I need to think more positively, is just more talking. It's just more. And efforting.
Which brings us full circle. So get out there on your favorite trail and walk briskly.
Or run.
Well, we were just doing one walk at a time here. So get out there and distract yourself. Doesn't your vibration usually rise? And don't you begin to get those clear-minded epiphanies under those conditions? Yeah.
So it's
anything
effortless.
that's conducive to receptive mode is the movement toward the effortlessness. But here's something that we must say to you. When you get tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you begin to receive what your source knows, then you offer all kinds of action, but it's effortless action. So let's not confuse effort and action, because action from inspiration just flows. But action that's trying to buck the current doesn't.
So action from inspiration is self-expression with a capital S.
Yeah.
You are now expressing source, and you're doing it in words, and you're doing
thrilling.
it in actions.
It's thrilling, and it's the way you intended to live.
Yeah.
It's what you came for.
Thank you.
Thank you.